The following is the third part of a 4-part story series. It is recommended to watch the previous episode to get a complete understanding of the storyline. Part 3. Donna.
My name is Donna, and I've lived in the same small suburb all my life. I've never been married and have few social connections. Being someone with limited skills and living paycheck to paycheck, I was hit hard when the store I worked at as a cashier closed down. I found myself struggling to make ends meet. As a 50-year-old woman, I found it particularly challenging to search for a job. Despite sending out countless resumes, I received only rejections, and my financial situation became increasingly dire. That's when I received an unexpected call offering me a job as a nanny to care for a baby girl. I was surprised, as I didn't remember applying for such a position, but perhaps I had responded to an advertisement with limited information. What shocked me even more was that the family lived across the country. However, they assured me that they would cover my travel expenses and hotel accommodations for the interview. It seemed like an extraordinary effort to hire just a nanny, but then they made an offer that was too good to refuse: 10 years' worth of my previous salary for just 1 year of work taking care of a baby. I was skeptical that it was some kind of scam, so I hung up. But a few days later, I received a mail with an airplane ticket and hotel information. With no other job prospects and bills piling up, I felt like I had no choice but to take my chances. In the mail, they instructed me to prepare everything I needed because, if I accepted the job, I wouldn't be able to return home until a year later. I set up automatic payments and mail forwarding, and I was on my way to the unknown. Upon landing at the airport, a chauffeur picked me up and took me to the hotel. After settling into my hotel room, a well-dressed elderly man entered. He introduced himself as Marcos. He gave me a form to sign, stating that I couldn't ask too many questions and couldn't talk to anyone about the job. I had already come this far, and I had nowhere else to go, so I agreed. Marcos then escorted me to a room adjacent to mine, which turned out to be an operation room filled with many monitors displaying footage from inside a house. A security personnel sat in front of the monitors, closely monitoring the screens. Marcos revealed that his organization was a government agency tasked with monitoring a couple who had recently stolen a baby. He informed me that I would be working as an undercover nanny, helping the government spy on the couple. To ensure my anonymity, I would now be known as Mrs. Thompson. He then handed me a set of clothes to change into and an unusually large bag, which he instructed me to carry with me at all times. He emphasized the importance of this several times, warning me that under no circumstances could I let the couple see what was inside the bag. If I were to do so, our entire operation would be compromised and I would go home empty-handed. Despite my curiosity, I was about to open the bag to peek inside, but Marcos caught my gaze and cautioned me against doing so. As a team player on my first day, I complied with his instructions. He explained that the bag contained GPS tracking devices to monitor my location, weapons for protection, and a hidden microphone and camera for spying purposes. Initially hesitant about becoming a spy, Marcos assured me that I would have a supportive team throughout the operation. The team even provided me with a hidden earpiece to hear instructions. The following day, I had an interview with the couple, and during the meeting, the team prepared a resume for me and instructed me to say yes to all of the couple's requests. It was that easy. I was hired. Working as their nanny, I found Lily and Thomas to be loving parents. It was hard to believe that they were baby thieves. Their love for their daughter shone in their eyes. As someone who had never been married or had children, I couldn't help but envy their seemingly happy family. Holding the baby girl in my arms, I felt a lump form in my throat and tears welling up in my eyes. If only I had made better decisions when I was younger, my life could have turned out differently. Despite my admiration for the couple, I couldn't ignore the tension between Lily and me. Her gaze often drifted towards my large bag, and I realized that she saw it as a potential threat. I didn't blame her for feeling that way, but I made sure to guard the bag extra carefully and never let it out of my sight. There was only one time I left the bag unattended, and the team quickly informed me through the earpiece that Lily was getting closer. I retrieved the bag promptly and warned Lily not to peek inside. Honestly, compared to my previous job as a cashier, I found this job much easier. The couple worked late at night, so I only had to arrive before they left and leave shortly after they returned home in the morning. The baby girl spent most of the time sleeping, so I sometimes found myself bored and even helped clean the house to pass the time. There were a few times when I even dozed off, but the monitoring team quickly woke me up through my hidden earpiece. As time passed, I began to feel increasingly uneasy with my job. Every day was the same, and I noticed that Lily and Thomas worked 7 days a week without taking any breaks. Their schedule was always the same, leaving for work at 11 and returning promptly at 9. They seemed to love their baby, yet they never called the house when they were at work. To make matters worse, the team monitoring the house never allowed me to take the baby out for a stroll, citing the need to closely monitor the house. They insisted that I had to follow the routine they set, which made me feel like I was living in a prison. I had so many questions in my mind. Were Lily and Thomas's hospitals really that busy that they had to work 7 days a week? Where did they steal the baby from? And why was the government involved in monitoring 2 baby thieves? The team's insistence on following the couple's strict routine only added to my frustration. But above all else, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off about this job. Why had I been hired for such a simple task? These thoughts swirled in my head constantly, yet every time I attempted to ask for answers, the team reminded me of my contractual agreement not to ask too many questions. Until one day, I couldn't handle it anymore. That day, when I arrived at Lily and Thomas's house, Thomas pulled me aside and handed me a lot of medicine bottles. He told me that their baby girl was very sick with a rare disease that he didn't want to tell Lily about yet. He said this was a special non-FDA approved treatment that could help her, and he gave me instructions on how to give it to her. With so many bottles to hold, I had no place to put them, so I placed them in the big bag I always carried with me. As the couple left for work, I reached into the big bag to retrieve the instruction manual on how to feed the medicine to the baby. While searching for the manual, I noticed a strange device stuck at the bottom of the bag. I realized that I had never looked inside the bag before since Marcos had instructed me not to. However, I ignored the device and began to read the instructions. As I was going through them, I couldn't help but feel sad for the baby, who needed so many medicines. Suddenly, I heard a voice in my earpiece, saying, "Mrs. Thompson, please ignore all the medicine. We will have a team of doctors examine it when you came back." I responded politely, "Please call me Donna," but my hands kept pulling out the medicine bottles. The voice in my earpiece reminded me, "Donna, you are not a medical professional. Please let us examine the medicine first before we give it to the child." "Sure," I replied, yet my hand continued and opened one of the bottles. The voice in my earpiece grew more urgent, "Please stop, Donna." But it was too late. As I opened the bottle, I was horrified by what I saw inside. It was filled with eyes. They looked like human eyes, some big and some small, and I screamed and nearly threw up. I reached for the second bottle, and despite the warning from the team in my ear, I continued to investigate. The second bottle contained flesh with blood on top, the third bottle with spiders, which I quickly closed. The fourth bottle contained a human finger, and I ran to the sink to vomit. The contents of the medicine bottles were too disgusting. I was so preoccupied and shocked by what I had seen that I couldn't hear the team in my earpiece yelling at me to stop. After I finished throwing up, I looked at the big bag they had given me and suddenly remembered the device at the bottom. I rummaged through the big bag and discovered that the device was attached to a box laying flat at the bottom of the bag. I pulled the box out of the bag, and noticed it was a plastic square box with small black device attached to it. Upon examination, I observed that the box was sealed on all sides. However, I could hear something rattling inside, but despite my efforts, I could not find a way to open it. Without thinking, I headed to the kitchen and grabbed a knife. Suddenly, I heard Marcos's voice in my ear. "Please, Donna, please stop what you're doing. I'll explain everything. Just put your knife down." His calm and steady voice made me pause and listen, but what he said next only fueled my anger. "Donna, we don't want to disturb the routine." I couldn't take it anymore and yelled, "Screw the routine." I grabbed the knife and cut the plastic box open, revealing something even more shocking than what I had seen in the medicine bottles. It was a dried baby fetus. It appeared dried out, yet I could see the head, body, and limbs, down to the bones. I screamed so loud that my throat felt raw. I couldn't believe what I had just seen. I sat there, frozen in shock, for what felt like an eternity. In the background, I could hear people in the monitor room talking, but I was too overwhelmed to make sense of anything. Finally, the voice of Marcos came through my earpiece, pulling me back to reality. "Please, Donna. I'll explain everything to you when you come back. Please put everything back into your big bag and stay calm." I complied with his instructions, shaking but mechanically putting everything back where it was supposed to be. I don't remember how I managed to get through the rest of that day. The shock of what I had seen had completely taken over my mind. When I got back to the operation room, Marcos finally explained everything to me.
To be continued.